Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Katie Grillo, and I'm the GIS Web Technology Specialist at the City of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I'm also your NEARC Board President. I am joined today by Krithika Kanthara, Mark Scott, and Tom Schwartzman from ESRI, and we are very excited to be putting together another NEARC community event for you. And today is the start of a new series that we're actually hosting with ESRI. So they are going to be joining us for a number of different NEARC community event workshops moving forward. And we're excited to start today with the ArcGIS Online new map viewer and instant apps. But before we get to that, I just want to take a step back and acknowledge who we are and why we're all here today. So this is a NEARC community event. NEARC is the Northeast ARC Users Group, and we are a volunteer-led nonprofit organization that hosts two major conferences in the Northeast every year. We have the one-day event in the spring, and our three-day event is coming up this fall on October 17th through the 20th, and we will be back in person again in New Haven, Connecticut. So I'll talk more about that at the end of today's event. But aside from these two major conferences, NEARC has also started hosting these community events. And this is an opportunity for us to come together and connect with one another. You'll notice that this is a meeting as opposed to a webinar. So if you want to, you're welcome to turn on your camera. You don't have to, but we will implement, or during these events, we always try to implement more of a discussion and more of a connection with one another. So we will have some breakout rooms happening later on, and during that time, you are welcome to turn on your camera if you'd like to. So this event is being recorded, and we will share the event recording as well as the PowerPoint presentation and some other resources after today's event. But I'm going to pass things over now to Tom, Mark, and Krithika to get us started with a short presentation.
All right, let me start. We're gonna do a little bit of PowerPoint, not a ton of PowerPoint. And today, as you know, we're talking about the new map viewer, which is part of ArcGIS Online, and instant apps, which are sort of the next generation of those templated apps you may have been exposed to. You're gonna get it, as Katie mentioned, you're going to get a copy of these, or a copy will be made available. So don't worry about trying to capture everything that's on the screen. We're going to move pretty fast through these slides so that we have time for a demo of both the map viewer and instant apps. And then, as Katie mentioned, we have some breakout rooms at 12, like halfway through, where you can pick a breakout room, and the three of us, ESRI folks, are going to take you through configuring each one of us will do a different app, so you can pick which one you're interested in and sort of follow along and do it with us. All right, so my job here is to talk about the new map viewer to start. So here we go. Hold on, and it's going to be a speedy trip. It is out of beta. If you didn't know, it was in beta for a good year or so. And so now it's out of beta. It's sort of much more mainstream now. It's gone through iterations where it's really, not only playing catch up to the classic viewer, but really surpassing it in terms of functionality. So you can see some of these things that have been added to the map viewer throughout its life in beta and now in release. And again, you'll get a copy of this. So you don't have to try to capture if you don't want. I'm not going to try to read all those. You get a sense of it. Some of the big things are like group layers, giant thing people have been asking for a long time for sure. Map rotation, things like that. It's still not quite equivalent with Classic. You can see some of the things that are not there. This is what's, I guess, in Classic, but not in the map, what used to be called the new map viewer is now just called the map viewer, and Classic is called the map viewer Classic. So the analysis tool is not yet there, so you can bounce back to the Classic viewer to do that. Dealing with related records, dragging and dropping, you can read this, right? Calculating, things like that. Not there, but coming. So, obviously over time, this will fill in that functionality to make it equivalent and beyond. So as we said, two different map viewers, what used to be called the betas, now just called the map viewer, and then the classic one, the older one, is called classic. This is you'll have the link to this, but this is basically what I showed you before, the different things that are missing and how you might make a decision about what you should use when and if. The map viewer, the classic map viewer, is not going anywhere. It's certainly not going anywhere until there's parity between the old and the new. You get to configure which is your first choice of map viewer. And we'll see that in a minute. And you can always flip a map back between the two. Creating a map viewer in the new map viewer does not preclude it being used in classic viewer. There are some things that if are in a map that you created in the map viewer that are unsupported in the classic viewer, they're sort of ignored by the classic viewer. Okay. How do you set this? Well, there are two places to set what the primary map viewer are. An admin in your org can set the primary map viewer for the org as a whole, and they do that in the administrative settings of the org. But you as a user can go to your profile and you can pick one or the other as well. And that you can see here towards the bottom picture in the middle there. You can pick which one is your primary one. They're both always available in lots of different places. In this pull down of app picker, you get both of them here. When you have a web map and your contents, you're looking at its detail, you get that map viewer and map viewer classic things there as well. There's also, I don't think I have a picture of it, but when you're in the map viewer classic or you're in the map viewer, there's a banner at the top that says open this map in the other one, whatever the other one might be. Map viewer has some new things that the classic doesn't have, and one of those things is charting, kind of interesting charts that are saved within the context of the map. So that's kind of cool, and all kinds of different maps that you can see, and then some ones coming as well. And this is the roadmap for that new map viewer. So you can see that coming soon thing. What's sort of on imminent this fall. You can see things that are a little farther out. And you can see things that are even far the future, 2022. Now, I know I haven't really gone into the what's and how's of the map viewer, but that's something that Krithika is going to give us a demo of some things. Excuse me. And after we talk about instant apps, she's going to give a demo of both. And so I think we're going to roll in a sec. I have one more slide, roll over to instant apps in a sec. But this is just to help set the stage for the rest of the talk today. There are some resources with links that we'll get to you. Katie will send these out, and they'll be of course, in the PDF of the PowerPoint that we share with you. All right, so I'm going to turn that over to Mark, and I'm going to play slide clicker for Mark. So off we go into instant apps.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Right, so instant apps is this new thing that they just started, or we just started, I guess we should say, that what they try to do here is create these really quick, very focused applications that you can buzz up in very short order, and you can always go back in and tweak it later. So you can see, they're quick. It takes seconds to set it up. It's very intuitive. Like I said, you can go from this express mode to customized mode to make it go better. And they're very accessible. You can share them all over the place. You can share it publicly. You can share it in a group. You can share it in pretty much wherever you want. Okay, next slide. So when we build these, it's all basically purpose-driven. So next. Whoops, we went back. Okay, I already said all these things. That's what happens when you're not driving the slides. Everything is built off the JavaScript 4X API, just like the new map viewer, just like the new dashboards. So all of this stuff is all JavaScript 4x API, meaning that it's got a lot of other things. So the smart mapping and new rendering is all pretty cool. The label classes, which you can do, and multi-element pop-ups, these are all things that are made capable through using the JavaScript 4x API. So that's awesome, and that's how these are built. Next. There's a lot of places to create instant apps, just like pretty much anything else that we've got. We give you about 50 different ways to do it, so you can be confused to the maximum. You can create the instant apps from the map viewer, be it the new map viewer. You can also do it from the content area, where you can pull that out. I'm actually going to show that in my section, and I'm sure that others will as well. So there's several places where you can create an instant app. Some of them are based off a map, so it makes more sense to do it from the map. And then others are more generic, like the one I'm going to do with the category gallery, because it works with multiple pieces of content. But one way or another, there's a lot of different places you can create these. All right, so right out of the map viewer, you're going to be presented with this screen, and there's going to be a whole bunch of instant apps. This list is going to grow. There's some in here that are, these are applications that we already had that have sort of been migrated into the instant app space, like the attachment viewer. The attachment viewer, if you've never messed around with it, is extremely simple and yet quite intriguing, because it pulls like all the features in the map and then grabs all the attachments and puts them in this panel to the left, which can be really useful and helpful, especially doing things like if you've got pictures of property as an example, or photos of an asset like a hydrant that you want to see in this panel on the left. So that's just a good example. When you construct the instant app, you're going to have a lot of options. So when you go through the setup, you'll be able to decide, do I want a legend? Do I want it in a panel? Do I want to pop up at all? How do I want to do this? How do I want the pieces to start up? Or maybe I don't want those pieces to start up at all. Okay, so you do that through there. So then you step through it, and you've got options to go through so basically what I usually do when I learned how to do these is you go through the express setup, which is going to give you pretty much like the 4 or so most important things that you would do with an app, and then you're ready to go, and it's ready to run and ready to share. Okay, you don't have to do anything else, but if you want to, you can tweak it some more. So you've got a basic set of map tools if there are maps in the app. There's zoom controls, layer list. There's a position manager where you can decide like where you want things to pop up. So that's quite helpful. This is really cool. I like this. It automatically will save changes into a draft, and then you can decide if you want to save that draft by publishing it. So you could tweak and mess around with this stuff, and it just keeps it in draft mode until you say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and push that out and publish it. So I'll overwrite whatever the instant app I already had published. I can just write right on top of it. Okay, and then you can say, hey, I want to reset to the last published one because I just did something I think was kind of dumb. I don't want to do that. And it'll ask you, like, is this really what you want to do? So it gives you some opportunity to like not completely mess up. If you've done an express setup, there's a full setup you can jump into. This is going to give you all the tools and settings that are offered in the template. Maybe not every, there's certain capabilities that might not be exposed in the express setup that'll be in the full setup. So for example, this defining a navigation boundary, I love this. You could put content in there and then say, for this particular app, I only want it to be focused on like one neighborhood in my city. So despite the fact that I've got a whole bunch of stuff in there, and what you do is you go through and say, look, this particular app is in this part of the city. Here's another app that's in another part of the city. And that's what we're going to do. So I think that's actually really helpful. And then we have this web analytics ID to start monitoring app activity. I'm not like super conversant in this, but it's a way for you to collect statistics on who's using, how much the app is being used.
Yeah, like Google Analytics goes.
Yep. Yeah, does it actually use Google Analytics, Tom, or is it just kind of like we're doing our own thing there? I mean, I don't really know.
No, I think it's Google.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I said, in full setup, the app author has access to all of these settings. You can even search, like say you're not sure, you're looking for a setting, you can like go and look for it. So this is like a really, it sounds simple, but it's quite helpful to be able to go in there and set that up. So there's an example of the navigation boundaries. This is in a much larger scale. I mean, the group I work in primarily is local government, so I deal with like counties and cities and towns. So I'm usually looking at smaller pieces of geography, but you can set whatever geography you'd like for the area of interest for that app, and you can always change it later. So there's the example of the web analytics, being able to pull that up and take a look at all that stuff. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. And at that point, it's ready to share. So you can like push that out and say, hey, I'm going to share it with my group. I'm going to share it with my org. I'm going to share it with the public, with everybody. I decide how I want to do that. All right, so it's really straightforward. Other little things we've got, you see these cute little icons on the screen in the upper left and upper right. So there's a print tool, so you can like print it out to a PDF. Very basic, but it is some print capability. Or you can just do an image capture. Of course, you could do that manually, but through doing the image capture from the tool, just like grabs it real quick and tosses it on the clipboard, and then sharing with social, so through Facebook, Twitter, etc. You can embed these in other apps, also very cool. So you can get the code and stuff it inside of another app. So that's great, and this is pretty cool also. Like most of the JavaScript 4x API tools, it's much more responsive to am I on a desktop, on a laptop, or am I on a phone? So it does a much better job at figuring that out and rearranging the components of the app so it doesn't look crazy, and just a lot better. So there's sort of like the big five instant app takeaways. We're going to share this PowerPoint with you, and I've got this on my slides for my section as well, but those sort of hit the highlights, and I think we touched on most of these. And now I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to pass it over to Krithika, and she's going to talk to us about the map viewer.
Thanks, Mark. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Good afternoon, everybody. And I'm going to give you a demo of the map viewer and instant app today. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Good. So I'm not going to turn on my video just because I have some bandwidth issues with my internet. So as Tom mentioned, you can access instant apps either through your app launcher, or if your organization admin has set it up, you can directly go into the new map viewer by clicking on the map tab here, or you can select a web map in your content and open the map from there. So if you open the app launcher, you can open it from there as well. So for today, what I'm going to do is start with an existing map that I have built out and go through a couple of functionality to configure this web map and also build an instant app using the same web map that I built out. So what I'm seeing here is unemployment rates in the United States, and that's the most current unemployment rates in the United States. To give you an overview of the layout of this new map viewer, this left panel allows you the capabilities to add layers, view the layers, tables, base maps, look at your charts, legend, and many more things. And right in the center is your map. That's the primary view, and that takes up most of the screen real estate. And the left panel has options for working on each of the layers, configuring the styles, the filters, clustering, etc. And if you have data that's editable, there's edit setting is also going to be available. So if you want to, you know, make more space for your map to, you can also collapse these side panels so you have more space to work on your map. I'm going to expand this out. The first thing that I want to do here is show you how to add data. So using the add data button up here, you can either browse data or add data from a CSV or web service. You can see the many options that are available. I'm going to go ahead and browse layers here. So you can use the browse layers to browse content items from your My Content, your organization, Live in Atlas, just general ArcGIS Online public layers, subscription content, etc. So for now, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and show you Live in Atlas. That gives you the option to look at all the data in Live in Atlas, and you can sort it or you can view it by category as well. So you can drill down and look at if you just want to look at base maps, or if you want to look at data for specific types of people. There is, you know, health, housing, income, jobs, etc. So I'm just going to clear that out, and I'm going to search for unemployment here. So current unemployment, and you'll notice that I have a whole bunch of data sets that pop up. I can click on any of these data sets, look at a quick description of that data set, and go ahead and add it to the map. This is the same data set that I have added already to my web map, and I'm not going to add it again, but you see how simple it is to add data from the Live in Atlas. And the Live in Atlas has data that's very current. You get information such as traffic information, the water flow rates in streams, rivers, and it's got 1,000+ layers there that you can explore and use within your map, along with your own data set to add more context to your data. So I'm going to close out of that and go into layers. So when I added this specific data set, you'll notice I have 3 layers that are brought in. So one is at a country level for the entire United States. One is at a state level. So when I zoom out, you notice it goes into the state level. And when I zoom in, it's at a county level. The one feature that everybody has been asking for is group layers. And the way that you do that is you click on one of these layers and say add it to a new group. You can go ahead and rename that group to just say probably unemployment, and then add the other layers to that group. So say move it to the group and say okay, move the other layer also to that group and say okay. So now when I expand out that group, all the 3 layers are under one single group, and you can, you know, turn off the entire group or turn it on. So that's very useful when you're working with a whole bunch of layers and you want to turn off the entire bunch of layers. The other options here are to be able to see the tables and change the base map. I want to mention that the base maps here are mostly vector layers or vector base maps. Our raster base maps primarily are the imagery base maps that you see here, the image and imagery hybrid. I did hear that the raster base maps are right now in mature phase, and they would be sort of phasing out in the future. So that's something to keep in mind, that if you have used raster base maps in the past, you might want to update them to newer base maps. There are also options to add charts to web maps here. So right now, I thought I did add a chart to this. It doesn't seem like it got copied, but I'll show you how to create a chart. And then you can look at the legend, and I have 3 bookmarks. So I'm going to go into Massachusetts, and you'll notice here that when I zoomed in into Massachusetts, it's also, the bookmark is saved with the rotation. So I rotated it slightly just so that you can see that bookmarks can be saved with the rotation. And I'm able to also rotate sort of go through some options here of configuring this specific layer. So the first thing that I can see here is the properties of this layer, the symbology, the appearance. And I want to talk a little bit about appearance because it's a really new feature that we added here, which is called blending. And by blending, you are able to sort of apply, it's not transparency, but a little better than transparency. So let's say you want the hillshade in the base map to be shown through this layers. I can apply a blending style here. So I'm going to do a multiply blending style here. Seemed like it did not take. Maybe let me go ahead and refresh this map to see why it's not working. I apologize for that. And I'm going to select the layer that I'm interested in. And that's the county level. And I'm using a blending of multiply. And you'll notice that, you know, when I zoom in here, my color is not faded out, but I'm still able to see the terrain in the background. In the traditional approach, you might have used transparency to do this. And if I use transparency, the color gets sort of washed out. You'll notice when I change it that, you know, when I apply transparency, it becomes sort of lighter blue, but using the blending allows me to keep the color, but also see what's behind, like example, the terrain that's behind the layer. The next thing that I want to show you is some capabilities to do styling. So right now, I have the counts and amounts as the style option, and I can do some more styling here. And what you'll notice here is that as soon as I change options for the color ramp, it's going to be affected on the map. And really quickly, you can, you know, select the style without having to do multiple clicks and see what it's going to look like. And then you can also easily change the ramp here in the histogram to quickly see which option you want to place it at. You can also classify the data just like the way you did it in Map Viewer Classic. And you'll also notice some other improvements here, like we've added the dot density option, which is a popular request from users as well. The next thing that I want to show you is the option to filter data. So you can add multiple filters. I'm going to add one and show you how easy it is to add these filters and some improvements that we've made in these filters. So what I want to do is filter the northeast states. So I'm going to replace that for the expression, and I'm not going to use is, I'm going to use includes, and then going to select multiple values. So I'll select Massachusetts, Maine, New York, New Hampshire, and Vermont. I mean, you get the idea, right? So what happens is I'm able to apply filters so that you don't have to do multiple filters for, you know, selecting multiple values. Using a single filter, you are able to add multiple states to that same filter. So that is one option. Now I'm also able to configure pop-ups really easily. And this is really flexible, which is, you know, one of my favorite features within the new map viewer. So when I click on a pop-up, you'll notice that I get the name of the county, a quick information about the county, and, you know, a couple of graphs along with it.
Hey, Kreska, I just want to make you aware of the time. We're getting a little short on time.
Yeah, sure. I'll just move by really quickly. So, oops, I didn't want to close that. So when I click on the pop-up, you'll notice that, you know, I have the chart here. And let's say I want to move the chart up right next to the title, I can easily move that. And I can also add more content. So let's say I just want a field list along with that, but I don't want to include all the fields. I just want to include 2 fields, or just, you know, this name and the state as a field list. I can also do that. So you'll notice that that's added to the end of my pop-up. So it's really flexible the way that you can configure the pop-up, and you can also add attachments and images as well. And the nice feature about configuring fields is that you can do batch configuring. If multiple fields have the same data type, you can pick those 2 and then configure it based on this and do the formatting in a batch format, so you don't have to go into individual fields and change the properties for that. Labels are also really cool here because you are able to add indents to labels. So I'm going to go to a bookmark, which I've already set up with labels. So it's going to come in, and what you'll notice is that I have the name of the county, and I also have the unemployment rate at that place. And you'll also notice when I sort of like, you know, rotate this map here, the labels rotate with the map. I mean, you're always able to see the label up front. There's also options to configure the charts. Just due to time here, I'm going to skip configuring a chart and show you an existing chart that I configured. This is a bar chart that I configured here, and this is just for the couple states that are in my view. And as you can see here, these are stacked charts, so it's giving me the split between the unemployment and an employment rate. When I select a specific bar in my chart, that entire state is going to get highlighted on my map as well. And you can also look at the chart in a split view. So really quickly, you can view the data and chart side by side. And those are some really, you know, neat options that are added to the new map viewer. And once you are happy with what you've configured, you can go ahead and create an application right from here. So after saving the options that you have set up in your map, you can share this map as usual, either with your organization or with the public by clicking this button here, or you can create an app. So when you create an app, it gives you options to create an instant app or a story map or a dashboard. Today, I'm going to use instant apps. And when you click on the instant apps button, it takes you to a different page, and it provides you all the options that are available within, or the different templates within the instant app portfolio. And you'll notice that initially it's sorted by compatibility. And what that means is that automatically the instant apps is providing you upfront the app that is most suitable or most compatible with the web map that you have selected. And it's suggesting, you know, the maps that would be nice to have with your the web map that you have built. But again, you know, you might have a specific purpose, so you're not required to choose those. And also you'll notice here that there are some warnings that says that this app requires a web scene and this app requires feature layer with attachments. So this might not work for the layer that you have in your map. I'm going to go ahead and choose the minimalist. So you could go ahead and preview the application before you go ahead and create it to see what it might look like. And as a minimalist instant app, it just gives you the basic options to explore the layer in the data in your map. So if you are happy with it and you want to, you know, add more functions to it, you can go ahead and say choose. Just going to say demo app, give it a tag, and do configure.
I think, Kritika, we should, I don't know how much time, we're really sort of out of time, unfortunately, because we want to get people to the breakout room. So
sure.
I don't know if you want to sort of maybe wrap this up and say that, you know, you'll all get an opportunity to configure the instant apps that you choose to follow in the breakout rooms. So yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right. Yep. I mean, we can continue this conversation in the breakout rooms, and I'm happy to, you know, walk whoever wants to go through the part that I selected in, you know, a breakout room. Katie, do you have the breakout room set up?
Yes,
I'll turn it back to Katie.
Thank you all so much. We really were trying to condense a ton of information into a short amount of time. So as everyone mentioned, the slides will be available, the recording will be available, and folks are also available if you have any questions after the fact. So what we're going to do now is jump into some breakout rooms so that we can look at some of these interactive, look at some of these instant apps together. So what we're going to do is each one of our ESRI staff is going to be taking a particular room. And within each room, we will have one topic. So Tom is going to be focusing on the zone lookup, which allows viewers to search for locations within a particular zone or region. We also have the interactive legend. Karithika is going to be taking you through the interactive legend so that you can learn about how to filter data based on items within your legend. And then finally, Mark is going to take the category gallery. And this allows you to showcase different items from within a group with different options and different filters for that particular type of content. So I'm going to open up the rooms, and you should see now at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you should see an option to click on breakout rooms. And I'm going to go ahead and let Tom, Mark, and Karithika jump into their rooms here. But all the rest of you should be able to click your breakout room button and then look at the different room choices. And you'll see a little blue button that says join. So I'll give you a minute to pick a room. And if you have any trouble, then I'm here. I can manually assign you to a room if needed. So give folks just a couple minutes to do that. And we will be in the rooms for about 15 minutes before coming back together here for some wrap up.
In the web map. So it's already configured in the web map with, you know, the symbology that I want to use. And this interactive legend app allows you to explore the data to ask and answer questions in an interactive way on the category of the data. So, you know, you would be able to select a specific category. When I pick the legend, you'll see that I have hydro, solar, wind, gas, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link of this web map that I created in the chat window. And as this is a follow along, you would be able to use the same web map with your ArcGIS Online credentials and follow along to create an interactive instant app with me. All right, so could you please give me a check mark? Let me see here. I'm trying to see if there's a way for you to tell me that, you know, the map is working for you, or if you can put it in the chat window, or if anybody wants to speak up that, you know, you are able to access the web map, that would be great.
Yep.
Yeah, that worked.
Okay, good. So you can go ahead and sign in into your ArcGIS Online organization. And once you sign in, you should be able to access instant apps. So right now, you know, I'm not signed in, so it's grayed out for me, but, you know, I'm going to go ahead and sign in. Okay, so once I'm signed in, you know, you'll notice that the Create App button here is enabled for me. So if you want to make any changes to the web map before you take it off into the instant app, you could do that. For example, if you want to choose a different base map, if this is not your favorite base map, you could go ahead and do that, and then save your map before you open it in or try to create an instant app. So if anybody wants to also use a different web map that you have already created, feel free to do that. And you can follow along with me while I am sort of creating this app using the interactive legend template. So I'm going to go ahead and create this instant app. So when I click that button, it's going to take me off into a different browser tab, and it gives me the options here. And right, like I said before, it's going to be sorted by compatibility, and you can choose from one of these app templates. In this room, you're going to work on the interactive legend. You can go ahead and preview it, or you could go ahead and choose to create the app directly from there. So I'm going to go ahead and do a preview before I create the app itself. And you'll notice here that I am provided with options to interact with my web map almost instantly. And this is the basic setup of the interactive legend app. So you can kind of work with it to see what it looks like, how it's going to work. So for example, if I click on hydro, it's going to filter out only the hydro plans. And if I want to look at probably the oil plans, it's going to filter out, and you can look at the oil plans. And the most basic options are provided to me on the side, the home button, the search button, etc. So let's say use it from here, give it a title. And I'm going to click on configure app. How's everybody doing so far? Is everybody able to follow? Do I need to pause here for a little bit?
I think you cut out there for just a second, but we just clicked the choose button and then entered a title, and now we're going to start configuring the app, right?
Yes, that's right. We're going to start configuring now. Thank you, and I'm sorry about that for getting cut off. So in the express setup mode, like Mark said, it gives you only a few options to configure your
You're cutting out again.
All right. Seems like I got cut out. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, so it walks us through a step-by-step process here. You can select a map as the first step if you already don't have a map selected. Since we started with a map, it's already selected here. And you'll also notice that we're given an option here for map accessibility. So like an alternate text description for providing that accessibility options within your application. And then you go to the next step. The next step allows you to configure your app title. So you want to probably give a different title. So let's just say worldwide in here. And as soon as I make that change, you'll notice that it changes also in the application. You can also include an introduction panel, which is like a splash screen in front, and edit the splash screen to provide more context. I'm not going to change that here, and I'm just going to say okay. And then when you go over to the next step, this is where you can add things such as bookmarks. So when I turn on the bookmark, you'll notice it gets added there. I'm going to turn it off and turn it on again. So you'll notice how it comes on. The layer list as well comes on. And then I have the feature count. So for each of these features, I'm provided with a feature count right next to it. I have a zoom to button, which is also added in the legend, and also some social sharing options as well. And then finally, you're able to say, where do you want all these buttons to be placed? So I'm going to go ahead and drag some of these options to a different place. So easily you can just drag and drop it so that they're all aligned or the way you want it based on your preference. I'm going to move the interactive legend to the top right. As you can see here, the draft is saved and you can go ahead and publish it immediately. And that quickly you're able to configure an instant app with the Express setup. So let's say that you want to do much more than an Express setup. You could go ahead and switch it out. So switch it to the full setup by clicking that button there. And when you click to the full setup, you're given with much more flexibility with how you can configure your application. So you have the about section there, you have interactivity there. So for example, under interactivity, let's say that I want my features to be muted and not filtered completely. So for example, now when I select oil, you'll notice that all the other features are filtered out from my map, but let's say I want a different function so that the overall or the other features are not completely filtered out or hidden. I just want them to be muted. Then, I select that. So like here, you'll notice that although I have filtered, I've selected oil as the features that, the power plants that have are using oil production as the option to be filtered out. The other power plants are muted behind and to a higher opacity so that it's not so muted, or I can make it really low so that it's really muted out and it blends in with the background. So it really depends on how you want to configure it. I'll just give you a few minutes here so that you can play with these settings if you are following along and ask me any questions.
Krithika, I have a question. Is
Yep.
there a way to dock the interactive legend so that it just is always visible and it takes up like the whole length of the side panel?
So let's see here. Under legend, yeah, it's always going to be visible. But we can do a search here to see if, it's no, so select interactive legend. Yeah, there's no option to sort of like, say that it's going to be hidden, but once you don't want to see it, it could be hidden like that. But on the initial view, legend instant app is to so that it's you can filter out and look at the specific features. So I don't think there is a way to hide it on initial view. But there are some other functions that you can hide, that you can make visible, I believe. Not all of them. I know what you mean, like, when you are in the web app builder, you are able to sort of like say that I want to make this visible on initial startup, but I don't want the other widgets to be visible, right?
Yeah, or have it docked so that it takes up the whole left or right side of the map rather than being confined to this like pop-up window with the scroll bar.
Okay. Could you share your screen maybe, if you don't mind? Maybe we can look at it together.
Sure. It's gonna take it away from you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I have this as like a little pop-up window, but I would love to see it as a full block on the side so that it's more of like, what is it, in the dashboards, I think, where it like pops out of the side.
Right, right. Yeah, so this is, the Instant app is pretty limited in the way that you can arrange the, the different widgets. I don't want to call it a widget. It is probably widget, they do call it widgets here. Yeah, I don't think that's possible within the Instant apps. I know that the minimalist Instant app has that side panel for some options, but still the home button, the zoom in, the zoom out, the layer list, all of that comes right on top of the map. It's, it's not possible to sort of dock it on side by side of the map. It's going to be visible on top of the map.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And just a warning, the rooms will be closing in about 2 minutes. So if anybody has any other questions, feel free.
So Mark did speak about the web analytics, which has been a really popular request. So this is where you set it up. So when you come in into the app settings, you'll click on web analytics. You can turn on Google Analytics. If you worked with Google Analytics before, they give you a key for each application that you're tracking. So you put the tracking ID here, and you should be able to track it, once people start using it. And when you publish it, after you publish it, you can change the share settings. You could make it visible to the public or within your organization, depending on your use case. So just to recap, the interactive legend allows you to explore feature layers in the map by interacting with the legend, and it's used for to emphasize a specific category or a set of categories, and to get a deeper understanding of how the data is distributed over space.
I managed to tweak it, get it in.
Oh, well, everyone that was in my room, I apologize. Huge. I didn't realize I was going to get kicked out, but I was going to steal another 2 minutes. I failed.
Oh, I did extend it by an extra minute and a half.
That's okay, Katie. It's on me. Time
flies when you're having fun with Instant apps. All right. So I think we've got everybody back in here now. I just want to say thank you again so much to Mark, Krithika, and Tom for your presentation today. And we will, as I mentioned, be sending the PowerPoint and recording in a follow-up email to folks. So if you have any questions or if you want any more information, then please do get in touch after this event. We do also have the ESRI Boston Hub site is a great place to go for resources if you're looking for any assistance or looking for ideas on projects, that kind of thing. So I just posted that to the chat, but I'll send that as a follow-up as well. And
yeah, I'll just mention all of our contact infos, Krithika, Mark, and mine are all on that hub site, although you may already know it.
Perfect, thank you, Tom. Yes, and we do have more events coming. So as I mentioned, this is the start of a new workshop series with our friends at ESRI. So next month, we are going to be joined again by Clinton Johnson, and he is going to be giving us a great presentation. We are still sorting out some of the details for what will be involved, but please save the date for September 29th, and I'll send a link and some more information to that after this event as well. And then the Fall NEARC Conference is coming up October 17th through the 20th. Our registration should be open hopefully by next week. So stay tuned for that. We're very, very excited to be back in person with many of you. And we do also have a hybrid option available for those that will be remote. So looking forward to connecting with you. And thank you again so much to ESRI, and thank you all for coming.